Hello.
Hello.
I'm Thomas Huot-Marchand, director of the ANRT. And ANCT, Atelier National de Création Typographique, the former name of ANRT, was created, as you see, in 1985 at the Imprimerie Nationale in Paris. At the time, French typographic industry collapsed. This is why the Atelier was created, to relaunch the French typographic scene. The Imprimerie Nationale still exists today. It's a pretty large company. Its main production site is based in Douai, in the north of France, which produces all kinds of official and secure paperwork for France and other countries, passport, ID cards, etc. The collections of the Imprimerie Nationale host a large number of non-Latin types. The oldest pieces are the famous Grec du Roi, 1300 punches cut by Claude Garamond. The Grec du Roi were based on Ange Vergès handwriting, the calligrapher of François Ier. This is a manuscript of Ange Vergès in their collections, and Garamond types with crazy ligatures connecting up to 5 letters. There are these are some of the 353 punches of Arabe d'Avicenne cut by Robert Grandjean in the late 16th century. Some printed material for the Medici library presenting every single type of the cases. Quite fascinating. And the amazing Buis du Régent, probably one of the most spectacular pieces of the collection, 86,000 wood types cut by hand at 40-point size. The set was completed from 1811 to 1813 by De Guigne for the Chinese, French, and Latin dictionary published by the Imprimerie Impériale. 20 years after Champollion, a hieroglyphic typeface was cut at the Imprimerie Nationale as well, including more than 3,000 glyphs. Pierre Fournier will tell us more about it. As I said in the beginning, ANRT was created at the Imprimerie Nationale back in 1985. After a closure of 6 years, it reopened 7 years ago, in 2012, with a new team and a new scientific project. This book, here, we published 3 years ago, tells the whole story. ANRT is a postgraduate research course. We are running several research programs initiated by the students or in partnership with laboratories in many different fields. Our goal is to investigate new paths in typography, questioning the role of type design in the field of digital humanities. Scholars often face typographic issues for the transcriptions of their work. In this case, we are working with the National Library, the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, to develop a typeface for all monetary coins. Researchers in epigraphy and numismatics use this kind of tools to annotate large corpus of digitized coins. What's new is that they not only care about the text of these inscriptions, they consider the shapes of the letters as well. They ask us to design a typeface that include all the variations. Elvire Folk-Leonovich in 2015 designed a peculiar typeface with a lot of alternates. It's not another fancy geometric sans serif. All these glyphs were identified on Merovingian coins. This is the basic Latin set. Some A's, there are even more, and some kind of medieval alternates. In this case, scholars are building an ontology of letter shapes, and we are designing these glyphs pointing to regular Unicode code points. They called ontograph the reference character and allograph its variants. The project was relaunched this year with a new corpus of antique coins. This typeface is now developed by Morgan Pearson, who is very interested in ancient writing systems. Working on this kind of corpus is a fantastic way to study and compare the evolution of the alphabets and the link between these societies. For instance, with the letter A or Aleph or Alpha. These are the alternate glyphs for the Phoenician. And archaic Greek, Old Italic with Etruscan, Neo-Etruscan, Oscan, and Umbrian. And this was the PIM project, Police pour les inscriptions monétaires, we are running with Bibliothèque Nationale. And this is another project. Sometimes this kind of projects are even more complex. This one, developed by Sarah Kremer, was in a partnership with the ATILF, CNRS in Nancy, Analyse et Traitement Informatique de la Langue Française, a huge linguistic lab and in philology and linguistics based in Nancy, right next to the Atelier. Sarah Kremer designed a specific typeface for a dictionary, the Französisches Etymologisches Wörterbuch, also called the FEW. Initiated in the 1920s by the Swiss lexicographer and philologist Walter von Warburg, the FEW attempts to trace exhaustively the evolution of the genetic of Gallo-Romance languages through time and territories. It is a reference book for French linguistics. There are more than 5 million entries on 16,000 pages. It is therefore extremely complex. Inside, the author has developed a special phonetic alphabet to record the pronunciation of each word. It's not IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, but a Roman typeface with multiple diacritics, up to 3 diacritics on top and 1 below. It was first set in metal in these monotypes, Scotch Roman, and in the early stages of digitization of the dictionaries back in the 1990s, the linguist tried to include this specific phonetic notation in a Times New Roman font. The result is quite poor, as you can see, and even worse, it's badly encoded. So the first step of this project was to encode a new font properly, and then to design a typeface adapted for the digitization of the FEW. Each style is autonomous. The typography is not uniform, but instead plays on different kinds of structures and weights to help in identifying the different elements of the article. As you can see, the italics are much lighter, for instance. These are spreads of the dictionary. And mine, for instance, this loopy U acute. Among all the letters, it was the latest to be encoded in Unicode 10. Thanks to this code point, the whole text was properly encoded using combining marks. To sum it up very quickly, our work is not only to design glyphs, but to find ways to compose complex texts using the appropriate technology. This project began as a research program in 2013, and it became a PhD, co-directed by RNRT and ATILF. Sarah Kremer worked on it for 4 years in the linguistic lab. She not only designed a specific typeface and a new layout for the dictionary, she also developed a specific tool for the scholars to write the articles It's a web app giving an easy access to all the typographic features. This is a good example of the kind of research conducted at the Atelier.
Hi, my name is Johannes Bergerhausen. I'm teaching at the University of Applied Science in Mainz. And in 2013, Thomas asked me to come as a visiting professor in Nancy. In 2004, with some fellow colleagues, we founded the Institut Designlabor Gutenberg with a strong focus on typography. And perhaps you have heard of the project Decode Unicode. I started in 2004, which was funded by the German Ministry of Education. And perhaps you have seen the poster. So Unicode is an encoding standard. To put it really simple, you could say that with the help of Unicode, you can type Latin, Greek, Cyrillic, Chinese letters, and so on your computer and on your smartphone. So the first step of this project was a printed poster with all the Unicode characters, the first version 2004, and the second version 2007. In 2011, Siri Puarangang and I published a book with all Unicode characters so that you can see everything in print, 600 pages, and we printed the Chinese characters on fine print Bible paper to get the weight below 2 kilograms. There are more than 100,000 characters in this book. On the right side, you see the code charts. At the time, it was composed out of 66 different fonts because there is no font covering all Unicode characters yet. In 2014, we published a Japanese version. And as a side project, we published in 2014 too a cuneiform font and a book presenting it. Cuneiform is the oldest writing systems, more than 5,300 years old. As far as we know, it's the oldest, and it's now encoded in Unicode 2. So in Mainz, we did a small project to design a font. And you can see the basic forms are still pictograms. For example, from these 4 forms, the one on the top right is it's the pictogram for star. Today, even 5,000 years later, we still understand why it's the pictogram for star, but it's the ideogram for God too. And you see Ni, star, city, and I, the pictograms. There is a webpage, decodeunicode.org, and there you can find more than 137,000 images of each and every Unicode character. We created images so that you don't need to have the font. And for the slider on the top, Jérôme Knebusch designed the reference glyphs for each Unicode block. This is part of Unicode. So here you can see all the Unicode updates. Every time there are more and more characters you can use on your computer or smartphone. And in the end, it's Unicode deciding which character we use on our computer. And that's why there are new emojis every year. Now there are more scripts. You see, every year there are more scripts, and now we are up to 150 scripts. While working on this every year and doing these updates every year, of course, at one point you ask yourself the basic question, how many writing systems are there? And when we will have all these scripts on our computer. So I asked Dr. Deborah Anderson, linguist at Berkeley, working on Unicode proposals since 2002. You will see her presentation next. And on her website, Script Encoding Initiative, she writes, over 100 scripts remain to be encoded. She maintains a list about all these missing scripts, but the answer for the simple question, how many scripts are there, how many scripts are missing, is not that simple. So she asked many colleagues around the globe, and some months later she came up with a magic number. In 2018, she told us, Thomas and me, she counted 292 writing systems, scripts of mankind. So last year there were 146 scripts already encoded. So if you do the math, there were exactly 146 scripts missing. So half of the job is done. Unicode took 27 years to encode the first half. So this was the basic idea for our long-term project, to work on type design for these so-called, we call them now, missing scripts. Missing scripts is a joint effort of these three institutions, Atelier National de Création Typographique, in the beautiful city of Nancy in France, Institut Designlabor Gutenberg in the city of Mainz, where Mr. Gutenberg is coming from, or where he's coming from, and where he printed the famous Bible, and the script encoding initiative of Dr. Deborah Anderson. And we did another calculation. If Unicode encodes an average of around 4 scripts every year there's a Unicode update, every year there will be more scripts, well, it will take to the year 2044 that we will have included all scripts. Perhaps this conference can contribute that perhaps the pace could get a little bit quicker, but even if they took, or we took till 2044, mankind would have taken like 50 years to encode 5,000 years of writing. The first step of our Missing Scripts project was an overview, again, a poster. And the basic idea is to have a reference glyph for each script. For example, the letter A, of course, it stands for the vowel A, but in general, it could stand for the Latin script. Like the omega, I presume many people will know, could be the reference glyph for Greek. If the script is an alphabet, we choose the letter A, like here, for example, Osmania. This is the letter Aleph, so it's the A in Osmania. But, of course, there are syllabaries, and there we choose the syllable Ka, because in India, in Indic scripts, they like to put the syllable Ka like the reference glyph. And if there are pictographic or ideographic scripts, we choose a part of the human body. Even there are the not yet deciphered scripts on our list. Of all these 292 scripts, there are 7 not yet encoded. So it's Feistos, Rongo Rongo, and others. Perhaps designers and researchers could help to decipher them. The reference glyph for Chinese is the character for eternity. And there is a 4-color code on the poster, and it's quite simple. There are historic scripts and living scripts, and there are scripts encoded and the scripts not yet encoded. So you come up to 4 colors. There's a timeline on the poster. So at the bottom, at the top, you see the oldest proto-cuneiform before even the cuneiform script. And the last one, called Luo, was invented in 2009 in Africa. We printed 600 copies last year, and we are happy that now there are just 11 copies still available of the first edition. Over to Thomas.
Thank you. Regarding the type design of the poster, it was done by a team, Arthur Francietta and then Morgan Pearson. As Johannes said, there are these reference glyphs, and if the writing system did not fit into these criteria, we arbitrarily chose the most formally representative sign. The work of representation by the type design was central and raised many questions. Our sources for each script was very different and the shapes very diverse. We chose a monolinear approach with the goal to be as close as possible to the ductus. no serif-like details, medium weight, and a low contrast. We are aware that with this approach, we could lose some information, but the intention here was to focus on the basic structure and see all the writing system of the word in the same way. Deborah Anderson is working in collaboration with experts from all over the world. They provide accurate historical and linguistic descriptions about the script. The quality of the documentation varies significantly. Further research is very often required to form a better understanding of the ductus and the drawing. So with this different level of complexity in the drawing of the glyphs, here you can see some of the more simple cases where we had pretty good sources. To inscribe the glyph in an imaginary square for the design of the poster, sometimes we had to modify a little bit the glyph's proportions. And here are some examples of poor quality sources where the role of interpretation was significant. And to finish, most complex signs are seemingly pictograms, which we had to harmonize with all of the glyphs to be able to compare them. Experts provided very helpful feedbacks on the design of the typeface, and even after the publication of the first edition of the poster. The goal is to be as faithful as possible, but keep in mind that it's a work in progress, and we keep improving the design constantly.
Some corrections?
Yeah.
From the experts? There were many corrections.
So, to sum up, there are two complementary fonts. The Decode Block Doc by Jerome Knebusch and Johannes to represent the writing system which are encoded, and the missing script font which represent, of course, the writing systems not yet encoded. We also develop complete typefaces for missing scripts. The first one is the Paleo-Hispanic, a set of writing systems created in the north of Spain before the Latin alphabet. A group of researchers from the University of Barcelona is working on the Unicode proposal and asked us to design a complete typeface for it. Arthur Francietta did it 2 years ago. This is an inscription in a Paleo-Hispanic script. And here, a transcription of this Paleo-Hispanic inscription and its typographic interpretation. Different levels of transcriptions. According to the Script Encoding Initiative, the Paleo-Hispanic script should be encoded in Unicode 14. The fonts are ready.
So this is in 2 years?
Yeah, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Then the next step was the website. It's called worldswritingsystems.org. And there you can find all these reference glyphs and some information, and you can sort them on the website quite easily by time. So here we start with the oldest ones, but you can sort them too by region, so that you see, for example, all the scripts created in Africa, then America, and so on. You can sort them by name, in Latin letters, the name in Latin, by Unicode version, and the missing are at the end of the list. And by status. Status is the distinction between living script and historical script. And when you click on one of these glyphs, you will find more information, for example, the link to the English Wikipedia site. Just a few words for the exhibition here at Alphabetum. Ilka Helmig and I prepared for The Hague. For the exhibition, we concentrated on the proposals. People have to write a proposal to the Unicode Consortium to propose new characters, new scripts, or new emoji. And of course, later we'll have the talk of Michael Everson, the man who did 528 Unicode proposals in his life. So, and we think from a designer and typographer point of view, these objects are very beautiful. For example, this is a community of the Gentisha script, and they are really, it's a true story, they write their newspaper by hand because they can't use their letters on the computer. So you can see the proposal in the exhibition. And the basic idea from Ilka and me was to print out all these proposals for the Alphabetum. All this stuff is online since years, but nearly nobody knows that it is online. So you can have a look at all these missing scripts. So we thought it would be a good idea to print it all out, especially here in the city of The Hague. We printed the living scripts on a rose paper and the historic scripts on white paper. And then there are 6 drawings by Ilka Helmig. They show the form of the sounds. For example, this is the pronunciation of the phoneme P. She will tell you more in her talk later this afternoon. If you want to know more, there's a small publication by Alphabetum about the concept. And there, for example, you can discover some stories like Alan Kay and his vision of the Dynabook and the graphical user interface already in 1972 at Xerox PARC. This is 8 years before the Macintosh and 38 years before the iPad. So to conclude, we are happy to present here the new second version of the poster. It was printed on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, on Monday.
So what has changed? First of all, there are 4 newly encoded scripts, so they change the color. But then we have 2 corrections to the last version. We thought last year that Vedic was an autonomous script. There was a Unicode block called Vedic extensions, but these are only extensions of an existing Indic script. So Vedic is not a script. And there's one correction about Chinese. Chinese, quite complicated, the story of 3,000 years. You could see it as a continuum of many, many scripts about many thousand years. But we thought last year that it was the best to divide it up in 5 scripts. 4 of them are not yet encoded, so the experts are still working on it. But it turns out that Old Hansi is the family name for these 3 other scripts. So this year, we think it is better to say that there are only 4 Chinese scripts. And the experts will still discussing on this, and perhaps in 2 years it will change. So on the new poster for this year, there are 290 scripts. And this number can change in the future, in the coming years, because there are elements, some people say they are scripts, but the scientific community is divided. They are still working on this. As far as there is no evidence, no proven evidence, we leave these scripts out. And that's why, already in the first version of the poster, Deborah Anderson added this text in small print. This presentation should be seen as a snapshot of the state of research in this month. The state of research can change and will change in the future. But for now, we are very happy to show you the state of research of this year with 4 new colors, and we are happy to present them here for the first time. And we would like to ask Morgan Pearson, who designed many of these glyphs. The others were designed by Jérôme Knebusch and Arthur Francietta, to show you for the first time the new poster. Thank you very much. Bedankt.
Merci beaucoup.